Teachers, what is the best excuse for being late that you have heard that turned out to be true? User under the nickname Riverside Teacher. I teach ninth grade English in a small town in Montana. Our high school is surrounded by quiet farmland and distant mountain views. Most days, the biggest obstacles my students face are oversleeping or missing the bus. But one morning, I saw Matthew, a normally punctual kid, dash into my classroom panting like he had run miles. He was late by a solid 20 minutes. When I asked for a tardy slip, he blurted out the wildest explanation. He claimed he had to wrestle a runaway llama that escaped from his uncle's ranch. I raised an eyebrow, half thinking he was pulling my leg for laughs. He insisted it was real, that the llama somehow jumped a fence, took off down a gravel road, and he had to help chase it back. The entire class giggled, expecting me to call him out for making up a bizarre story. I let him tell his tale in more detail. How he woke early to do chores, heard frantic yelling from the barn, saw his uncle pointing at a llama bolting down the road. He grabbed a rope, hopped on his dirt bike, pursued the llama around a field. After wrangling it, he realized he had spent half an hour outside, looked at his watch and freaked out. He dashed inside to shower, threw on clothes and sped to school. The kids smirked, waiting for me to roll my eyes. Instead, I told Matthew that if he was telling the truth, I'd call his uncle to confirm, expecting a polite denial or a mild apology. Instead, he laughed heartily, explaining exactly how that llama escaped, verifying every detail. He apologized for the disruption, said Matthew's help was critical in retrieving the llama before it ran onto a busy road. So that day, I had to face the class and say, yes, Matthew's story was entirely legit. The shock on everyone's face was priceless. From then on, I never again doubted an odd-sounding tardy excuse without some form of gentle investigation. Turns out, in a rural setting, anything is possible. User under the nickname MapleMath. I work as an algebra teacher in a bustling suburban school near Chicago. One fall morning, a notoriously quiet girl named Addison strolled in late, around 10 minutes after the bell. Normally, I would give a generic tardy slip, but she approached me, clearly anxious. She explained that her family had a pet parrot, an African gray named Apollo, that got itself stuck on top of the neighbor's roof right before she was supposed to leave for school. Her parents had already gone to work, leaving Addison alone with this predicament. She spent ages coaxing the parrot down, terrified it might fly away or get hurt. I stared at her in mild disbelief, seeing as African gray parrots were not exactly standard household pets. Still, she had those worried eyes that made me pause. I told her I'd let it slide if she provided a note from home confirming the story. Her mother emailed me a frantic apology, describing how Addison had indeed saved the family parrot from a rooftop fiasco. She even attached a quick photo of Addison on a ladder, parrot perched on the edge of the gutter. The mother wrote that Addison was the only one left at home, so there was no other choice. The entire ordeal had delayed her by 15 minutes, leading to the tardy. After reading that email, I announced to the class that Addison's excuse was official. Everyone erupted in laughter, stunned that this quiet student had spent her morning retrieving a lost parrot. It served as a reminder that behind any calm exterior might be a chaotic morning. Addison became something of a local legend among her peers for that parrot escapade. User under the nickname Dawnlit English. I teach honors English in a Philadelphia high school. One crisp winter day, a boy named Marcus burst in, cheeks flushed from the cold, over 20 minutes late. He tried to slip into his seat discreetly, but I caught him. I asked for an explanation, and he quietly said, "My baby brother jammed a Lego up his nose, so my mother needed my help getting it out before we drove here." The entire class snickered. The idea of a Lego-induced emergency was comedic. But Marcus seemed exhausted, not enjoying the spotlight at all. I demanded some validation, maybe a note from a parent, because kids often spin creative stories. I found a voicemail from Marcus's mother on the front office phone. She sounded frazzled, apologizing for her son's lateness, explaining that her youngest child nearly gave them a heart attack by pushing a small Lego piece into his nostril. They panicked, tried everything. Eventually, Marcus managed to calm the toddler, used tweezers carefully, and rescued the plastic piece. By the time the crisis ended, they were behind schedule. She thanked me for being patient. When I recounted this to the class next day, they exploded with questions for Marcus, some jokes about his future as a surgeon. He shrugged, saying it was the worst morning of his life, but at least his little brother was safe. That surreal excuse turned out to be entirely true. Now I always recall that day whenever a student claims something bizarre at home caused them to be late. Sometimes, reality is as random as a toddler with a Lego in his nose. User under the nickname Redwood Reading. I teach second grade in a small coastal town in Maine. Usually, the kids with tardy issues blame oversleeping or missed bus schedules. But one morning, sweet little Lily arrived half an hour late with tear-streaked cheeks. I gently asked her why she was so late. She said she had found an injured baby seal on the beach behind her house, and her father was not home, so she tried calling the local marine rescue hotline. She ended up staying until an official arrived to help the seal. The rest of the class listened, wide-eyed, as Lily described comforting this tiny creature. Part of me suspected a child's fantasy. Rescuing a baby seal sounded too precious. Lily's mother showed up at dismissal time to confirm Lily's story. She brought pictures of the marine rescue team picking up a small stranded seal pup. She thanked me for understanding. My heart melted. This 7-year-old had a more eventful morning than I'd had in years. The mother also explained how Lily insisted on not leaving the beach until the professionals arrived to ensure the animal's safety. That was how I realized no matter how adorable or unlikely an excuse may sound, it can still be completely true, especially in a coastal setting where marine life washes ashore. Lily's entire class admired her for days, calling her the little seal savior. User under the nickname Stormy Substitute. I often sub for middle schools around Dallas. One day, I was covering a 7th grade social studies class. A kid named Cole rushed in late, sweaty and gasping. I asked for a tardy slip or a reason, bracing for typical nonsense. He claimed, with absolute seriousness, that there was a neighborhood peacock blocking the road. I almost laughed out loud because the mental image was ridiculous. But he insisted. He said a neighbor owns this exotic bird that likes to roam free. That morning, it decided to stand in the middle of the narrow street, refusing to budge, tail feathers spread wide, blocking traffic. The class chuckled, but Cole was adamant, describing how he sat in the car with his mom, honking, while the peacock just shrieked and refused to move. Eventually, a couple neighbors teamed up to guide it away. Curious, I asked the front office about peacocks, and surprisingly, a staff member said yes, that area is known for a random peacock that roams. The security guard had seen it multiple times. So Cole wasn't lying. Everyone was flabbergasted, but I let his tardiness slide because, hey, if your path is blocked by a proud peacock, what can you do? The rest of the day, students made jokes about exotic roadblocks. But I never forgot that day. Now, whenever a student claims an animal blocked traffic, I recall Cole's peacock story. Maybe it is legit. User under the nickname Maple Teacher. I teach 9th grade earth science outside Seattle. One gloomy day, a girl named Harper rushed in, soggy from the persistent drizzle, about 15 minutes late. She looked flustered, so I asked for a reason. She explained that her father's car door somehow froze shut that morning, and they had to borrow a neighbor's hairdryer to unstick the seal around the door. I was skeptical because the temperature wasn't that low. But Harper insisted a freak cold snap in the early hours had caused a thin layer of ice on the door's rubber edging. She even said they tried warm water first, which only made it worse, forming a new glaze of ice. So they ended up calling the neighbor with a hairdryer, extension cord, the works. I demanded a tardy pass from the front office, but they just wrote a generic car trouble note. I still doubted her. Later that week, I bumped into her father at a parent meeting. Out of curiosity, I asked about that morning. He laughed, confirming the entire ordeal, showing me phone photos of a frosted car door that refused to budge. He said it was one of the strangest mornings he'd ever had, especially in Seattle's moderate climate. That taught me a lesson. Even a small weather quirk can cause bizarre problems. The next time a student claims some odd mechanical meltdown, I recall Harper's hairdryer rescue mission. Sometimes truth is stranger than any excuse we conjure. User under the nickname Dusk History. I manage a small high school in rural Kentucky. We had a consistent latecomer named Adam. One morning, he strolled in about half an hour after first bell, claiming he got stuck behind a parade of antique tractors that decided to chug along the main road. My staff and I suspected an exaggeration, but he insisted that local farmers sometimes do this informal tractor drive to a festival. He had no way to pass them on the narrow country lane, so he crawled behind them at 5 miles per hour for miles. We told him we would contact his father to verify. Sure enough, his father answered the phone, laughing, confirming that yes, there was a tractor parade on Route 12, blocking the entire stretch. Adam tried turning onto a side road, but it looped back, leaving him stuck again. They apologized for the tardiness. In a place where agriculture is part of the culture, this explanation turned out to be valid. So I let him off with a smile, imagining the frustration of trailing antique tractors on a Monday morning. That day taught me that life in a farming community can produce comedic, yet legitimate tardy stories. User under the nickname Embercoach. I teach physical education in a large Indiana high school. One winter day, a senior named Jason hustled in late for homeroom. He was a star athlete, never one to skip class. I asked him why he was late. He told me he found an injured bald eagle by the roadside while driving to school. The room fell silent. He said the eagle appeared hurt, unable to fly, so Jason pulled over to help. Not wanting to leave an iconic bird there, he contacted wildlife rescue, waited until they arrived. Everyone gave him skeptical glares, but Jason was known to be honest. We required a note from the wildlife officer or at least some proof. Jason showed me a short phone video. The eagle perched on the grass, wings drooping. Then an officer arrived, thanking Jason. Even the official posted a quick tweet about the rescue, mentioning a concerned student found the bird. My jaw dropped. This star athlete basically became a minor local hero for saving a national symbol, and it indeed made him late for class. From that day on, whenever I hear a suspicious excuse about an endangered animal, I recall Jason's eagle story and how sometimes the most patriotic-sounding tale can be absolutely true. User under the nickname Sunset Spanish. I teach Spanish in a California high school near a bustling freeway. One day, Katrina stumbled in with a bizarre excuse. Her car's GPS led her onto a closed road in the outskirts, and she somehow found herself at a dead end near a film shoot for a zombie movie. She claimed the road was blocked by trucks and actors in zombie makeup. She had to navigate around them, losing precious time. At first, I suspected pure invention. Another teacher overheard, raising an eyebrow. Katrina insisted she even took pictures. I said, "Show me." Sure enough, she pulled out her phone, displaying a grainy shot of movie trailers, some costumed individuals with faux gore, all in the middle of that deserted road. The location apparently had been used for filming a low-budget horror flick. The production company had blocked a chunk of the street with no clear detour signs, so her GPS didn't register the closure. She had to backtrack, adding 20 minutes to her commute. I let her tardy slide, laughing at how a random film shoot with zombies had caused a real-life obstacle. Now, whenever a student claims a weird Hollywood scenario for lateness, I remember Katrina's photos of moaning zombie extras in rural California. User under the nickname Redwood Coach. I teach geometry in a small Wisconsin town. Usually, tardiness stems from oversleeping or farm chores. But one morning, a soft-spoken sophomore named Sarah arrived nearly 40 minutes late, trembling slightly. She told me she encountered a black bear rummaging through her family's trash can right by the driveway. She and her mother felt too scared to walk past it to get to the car. They waited inside until the bear wandered off. I stared, not sure if I believed it. Bears are known in certain areas, but her place was somewhat closer to the main town. A quick call to the mother confirmed everything. She said they saw the bear tip the bin, looking for scraps. Sarah was terrified, so they locked the door, waited until the bear lumbered away. That explained the big delay. I believed them wholeheartedly once I realized how many local sightings had been reported that month. Sarah was still shaking from the thrill. That day, I announced to the class that Sarah had faced down a black bear. Instead of mocking her, they were in awe. It also reminded me to keep an open mind for rural wildlife chaos as a legitimate reason for tardiness. User under the nickname Ember Civics. I instruct a civics class in a large Florida high school. One breezy morning, David stumbled in late, around 20 minutes after the final bell. He apologized and said he had been pulled over by the police on his drive to campus. Of course, I rolled my eyes, suspecting a typical excuse about a traffic stop. But David quickly insisted he was not speeding. He had a small plastic container in the back seat holding some kind of turtle he rescued from the roadside. The officer apparently saw him swerve abruptly, suspected impaired driving, and pulled him over. David explained to me that the swerve was to avoid hitting the turtle. Then he decided to pick it up to release it in a safer habitat near a local pond. The officer found the story weird, asked a lot of questions, eventually realized David was telling the truth. This took quite a while, hence the tardiness. I told David I'd need confirmation. A local policeman visited the school that afternoon for a separate matter. I inquired if he knew of that traffic stop. He chuckled, "Yes, indeed." One of the patrolmen mentioned stopping a teen who had a turtle in his car. The policeman even said the teen was basically a good Samaritan. That's how David got a validated tardy pass, and we ended up calling him the turtle savior in class. Sometimes, an excuse about the law pulling you over for helping wildlife can be absolutely legitimate. User under the nickname Honey Reed. I teach kindergarten in a sweet, quiet corner of Iowa. One precious day, a tiny boy named Noah arrived an hour late, looking frazzled. The mother guided him in, apologizing profusely. She said they had discovered a family of ducklings in their backyard pool that morning, stuck and unable to get out. They spent ages rescuing them, carefully lifting them one by one with a pool skimmer, then guiding them to the nearby pond. Noah insisted on staying until each duckling was safe. The mother was exasperated, but she let him do it, thinking it was a teaching moment about kindness to animals. I believed them but asked for more detail. The mother showed me photos on her phone. Half a dozen ducklings, huddled on the pool steps, mother duck quacking anxiously outside the fence. The entire morning turned into an avian rescue. By the time they resolved it, Noah was late for class. Naturally, this enthralled my kindergarten group. We ended up discussing how to treat animals responsibly, praising Noah for his patience. That day, I realized how a seemingly improbable excuse, ducklings in a pool, can be a pure and beautiful truth. People see lateness as irresponsible, but sometimes a kind deed deserves applause. Noah got a gentle handshake from me. User under the nickname Dusty Lit. I handle high school literature in a southwestern Arizona district. One blazing hot morning, a junior named Alicia showed up nearly half an hour late, panting. She explained that on her drive to school, she discovered a massive cactus fallen across part of the road, blocking cars, possibly the result of a storm. She and a couple strangers worked together to push or roll the cactus debris aside to clear at least one lane. In Arizona, big cacti can weigh hundreds of pounds, so it was no small feat she claimed she was sweaty because they physically wrestled with spines, though hopefully wearing gloves found in someone's trunk. The class erupted in skeptical giggles, but Alicia insisted. She even had a minor scratch on her forearm from a needle that poked through. I alerted the front office, expecting a typical tardy write-up. Later, the secretary told me they received multiple calls from local residents reporting a fallen saguaro that caused a traffic jam. Sure enough, Alicia's story matched real events. The secretary praised her for stepping in to help. So I told Alicia the next day that she had possibly the coolest tardy excuse: wrangling a cactus to unclog traffic. Everyone who doubted her was forced to admit the desert yields some truly unique predicaments. User under the nickname Ember Wyatt. I am a math teacher in a Massachusetts high school, known for tough winters. One January, Logan, a diligent student, arrived an hour late, covered in ice crystals on his jacket. He said his home's front door froze shut from inside. He tried climbing out a window, but it was stuck, too. Eventually, he found that the basement door was less frozen, pushed through, but slipped on ice outside and had to rescue his phone from a snow drift. Then his car battery died from the extreme cold, so he had to wave down a neighbor for a jump. Each step of the story sounded more dramatic than the last. The entire class listened, half sure it was a tall tale. To my surprise, the next day, Logan's mother sent an email clarifying every detail. She apologized, saying their old house often had a leaky front door that froze solid, and they lacked time to fix it before the deep freeze hit. The neighbor confirmed he jump-started Logan's car. So the chain reaction of winter misfortunes was legitimate. I forgave the tardiness. The best part was seeing the comedic chaos that can unfold in an old Massachusetts home. Ever since, I've believed any winter-related excuse, because nature can truly sabotage a morning in unpredictable ways. User under the nickname Oak Reader. I teach freshman reading classes in upstate New York. A quiet boy named Jonathan once arrived a full hour late. When pressed, he muttered that his mother's car got stuck behind an accident, so they pulled into a diner parking lot, only for her to accidentally lock the keys inside the car with the engine running. They had to wait for a locksmith. It sounded like a chain of unlucky events. The class snickered, joking he might as well claim a tornado dropped the diner on their car. But then, later that day, Jonathan's mom emailed me, detailing the fiasco with times and a photo of the AAA van that eventually arrived. She sounded beyond flustered, offering to pay any fees for tardiness if needed. I realized the poor kid had just endured a comedic nightmare. The entire day turned from bad to worse. I read the email to the front office, who laughed, then granted him an excuse tardy. That taught me not to brush off a multiple catastrophe story as fiction. Sometimes, real life piles on obstacles in the unlikeliest sequence. User under the nickname Honeyhall. I teach advanced placement history in a New Jersey suburb. Typically, my AP students are punctual, but one day, a girl named Trinity breezed in 15 minutes after class started. She panted, claiming her father's boat trailer got disconnected from their vehicle on the way to school. She said they lived by a marina, and the father was towing the boat for winter storage. The hitch somehow failed at a traffic light. They had to wave at passing cars to help push the trailer onto the shoulder. The entire ordeal took precious time. I stared, half expecting a more mundane excuse, but she insisted that was the truth. The class teased her about yachting, but she turned red, saying it was just a small fishing boat. Her father sent me a brief note the next day, confirming the trailer mishap, apologizing for the tardiness. He explained the hitch broke unexpectedly, and Trinity had no choice but to wait until they secured the trailer again. Another odd scenario proven real. Now, whenever someone claims their morning was delayed by boat trouble, I recall Trinity's fiasco, no longer dismissing such an improbable event. User under the nickname Redwood Band. I direct the school band in a mid-sized Arkansas town. One midday, a trumpet player named Ava arrived late to our rehearsal. She was out of breath, claiming her cat had an unexpected litter of kittens that morning, and she stayed to help. Everyone laughed, suspecting her of conjuring a sweet but fake scenario. Ava, though, insisted she had to keep the mother cat calm, cut the umbilical cords because the cat was struggling, then clean the newborn kittens. She teared up describing it. I told her I'd need a parent note. The following afternoon, her mother emailed me with pictures of the 6 tiny kittens, explaining how Ava basically played midwife. The mother cat was a first-time queen, evidently anxious. Without Ava, the mother cat might have had trouble. Moved by that, I forgave Ava's tardiness wholeheartedly. The band kids got to see the photos, cooing over the newborns. That day, I realized even the classic "my cat had kittens" excuse can be 100% valid, especially if the student returns with heartfelt details and genuine relief. User under the nickname Sable Sonnet. I am an English teacher in a bustling Florida city. One senior, Emily, typically punctual, appeared almost an hour late, looking frazzled. She stammered about how her house's front door handle broke off in her hand, trapping her inside because all the windows had bars and the back door was blocked by stored junk. The class erupted in laughter. She said she had to climb onto the roof from a second-story window, then drop down onto the backyard. Finally, she realized the yard gate was chained from the outside. She rummaged for tools in the shed to pry it open. By then, she had lost an entire hour. I said that sounded borderline comedic, almost slapstick. She insisted it was real, that her family's home was old and in disrepair. Her older brother emailed me, confirming the fiasco. He apologized for not being there that morning. Otherwise, he might have let her out. He even attached a photo of the door handle snapped off, lying on the floor. The scenario was bizarre, but wholly factual. I shared it with the class. They roared in disbelief, then accepted it. Now, if a student claims they got trapped inside their own house, I keep an open mind. Houses can be unpredictably flawed. User under the nickname Ember Public. I am a teacher in a large public high school near Houston. One quiet junior, Damon, rushed in late, claiming he had to chase his runaway dog all around the neighborhood. He claimed the dog slipped out of a loose fence panel at dawn, forcing him to sprint through multiple backyards. The class chuckled, but Damon said he ended up cornering the dog near a drainage ditch, getting soaked in muddy water. He smelled faintly of wet dog, so that part seemed plausible. I asked for a parent's note, half expecting none. The attendance clerk said Damon's mother called, breathless, describing how Damon truly sprinted after their excitable golden retriever. She was at work, so Damon handled it alone, refusing to leave until the dog was safe. The mother apologized for sending him to school muddy, but it was the best they could do in the scramble. So yes, the tardiness was real. I told the class, and they found it comedic. Damon, red-faced, admitted the dog had quite the energy. Now, whenever a student claims a pet-related fiasco, I remember Damon's genuine dog chase, how he arrived damp and out of breath. User under the nickname Maple Admin. I serve as a school administrator in a small Oregon high school. We had a teacher who reported a consistent tardiness from a sophomore named Chloe. One day, Chloe arrived 2 periods late, nearly close to midday. She gave an outlandish excuse. She discovered a stray horse wandering along her street, presumably escaped from a local ranch. She felt compelled to guide it to safety, eventually finding the owner's details from a local online group. The teacher doubted her. I decided to investigate as the story sounded absurd. Sure enough, I found a Facebook community post from that morning, with pictures of Chloe leading a chestnut mare by a makeshift rope halter, heading to a stable. Comments praised the unknown girl who rescued the wandering horse. One poster recognized Chloe, mentioning she was late for school that day but a hero for the horse. Realizing the entire saga was legitimate, I excused her tardiness. That taught me that in Oregon's rural-suburban mix, a random horse rescue is not impossible. The teacher apologized to Chloe for doubting her. User under the nickname Dawn Biology. I teach high school biology outside Nashville. A student named Miranda came in a good half-hour late, trembling. She whispered about how she got locked inside a convenience store during an attempted robbery. She claimed the clerk panicked, locked the doors, and told everyone to stay put until police arrived. She called her mom from inside, explaining she would be late. The entire class looked at her in shock, half of them suspecting an elaborate lie. I asked for parent confirmation. That afternoon, the mother emailed in detail about the dramatic morning. She attached a link to a local news snippet where it mentioned a brief police standoff at a convenience store. No injuries. Suspect fled. Miranda was inside during that chaos, forced to wait for the police to secure the area. My jaw dropped. I praised Miranda for staying calm. She said she was terrified but had no choice. Indeed, her tardiness was all too real. That day, I realized how a horrifying, out-of-the-blue event could disrupt a student's routine, overshadowing any normal excuse. Her tears convinced me never to trivialize a wild-sounding story again. User under the nickname Ember Study. I am a college prep teacher in a large Minnesota high school. One bitterly cold morning, a senior named Evelyn walked in 25 minutes late, wearing a half-frozen expression on her face. She explained that her garage door got stuck halfway open, so she decided to back the car out anyway, misjudged, and ended up ripping the car's roof rack off. The entire fiasco included searching for tools, removing twisted metal, and ensuring the garage door could shut. She arrived to class shaking from adrenaline. The story sounded comedic, but also suspicious. Maybe she partied or something. Then her dad called the school later, upset about the damaged car roof. He verified every detail, apologizing for Evelyn's tardiness. The father said they had to salvage the car's roof rack with pliers and a mallet, turning it into a big headache. I let her tardiness slide. That evening, Evelyn emailed me a picture of the mangled roof rack. She was still mortified. Now, if a student claims something weird happened with their garage or vehicle, I recall Evelyn's battered roof fiasco, and I believe in the madness of morning mishaps. User under the nickname Redwood Lit. I am an English teacher in a large Oklahoma high school, known for storms. One spring day, a student named Grace dashed in soaking wet, about 15 minutes late. She claimed a sudden microburst of rain caused flash flooding on her street. She had to wait it out so her car wouldn't stall. I was skeptical because the morning forecast was only mild showers. But Grace insisted it was a freak downpour, forming mini rivers across the road. I asked her to get a note. Later, her mother sent a quick video capturing the insane rainfall near their home, water gushing knee-deep in some spots. They had never seen such a localized storm cell. Cleared fast, but not before halting traffic. So yes, Grace's story was legit. She arrived drenched from stepping out to check the water depth. That experience taught me that weather can surprise us, and a seemingly exaggerated tardy explanation might be absolutely genuine, especially in tornado-prone Oklahoma. User under the nickname Sunny Counselor. I work as a guidance counselor in a large high school near Buffalo, New York. Usually, I only see tardy kids when they need a slip or if there is a concern about chronic lateness. One morning, a sophomore named Ethan knocked on my office door, looking frazzled, asking for an excused tardy pass. He claimed a deer crashed into his living room window at sunrise. His mother was so shaken that Ethan stayed behind to board up the shattered glass and deal with shards all over the carpet. I stared, half in disbelief, but he had that haunted expression, describing how the deer suddenly bolted away, leaving a gaping hole. He apologized for coming in late, saying he could not leave his mother alone to handle it. I contacted his mother to verify. She sounded shaken, confirming the deer incident. She said they never imagined a deer would dive headlong through the window, caused chaos. She praised Ethan for staying to help before heading to school. She even attached photos of the ruined window, broken glass, and traces of fur stuck on the sill. That day taught me to keep an open mind. In Western New York, deer collisions often happen on roads, but apparently they can crash into houses too. Ethan's tardy was absolutely justified. He spent that morning cleaning up a surreal wildlife accident. User under the nickname Rosie Biology. I teach biology in a busy Texas high school. One rainy day, a senior named Lily dashed in about 20 minutes after first bell. She panted, explaining that a sudden sinkhole opened up in her neighborhood street. The car in front of her got partially stuck, blocking everyone behind. Lily's mother and other neighbors worked together to help the driver climb out. They had to call the city and traffic halted. Lily insisted she had no way around it, stuck until officials arrived. I sighed, suspecting exaggeration. Then she offered to show me phone pictures. I glimpsed them. A big muddy pit in the asphalt, a car's front wheels swallowed. She said no one was hurt, but it delayed her entire block. I searched local news that afternoon. Indeed, a sinkhole had formed on that street, causing a minor traffic jam. Lily's photos matched. The campus staff excused her tardy. The next day, Lily's classmates teased her about living on an unstable road. She rolled her eyes, saying it was terrifying. She learned an important truth. Real life can sabotage you in ways no one expects. Now, if a student claims a random infrastructure disaster made them late, I remember Lily's sinkhole fiasco. User under the nickname Ember Art. I oversee an art class in a small Tennessee high school. One Monday, a quiet junior named Megan stumbled in halfway through the period, paint flecks on her sleeves. She murmured she had to finish painting an outdoor mural for a local festival, because the mayor insisted on a last-minute deadline. She lost track of time while completing final touches under a staff member's supervision. The class snickered, but Megan rarely joked. The idea of painting a mural so early in the morning seemed odd, yet plausible for an art enthusiast. I told her I needed a note. Later that day, the principal approached me, praising Megan's volunteer work. Turns out, the mayor personally requested the mural be done before noon for a surprise unveiling. Megan had gone at sunrise to finalize it. The official city representative texted the principal, thanking the school for letting Megan handle it, apologizing for her late arrival. That day, I realized how an unexpected artistic obligation could overshadow normal routine. The entire class ended up congratulating her for the big mural success. Next time a creative student claims an art emergency made them late, I recall Megan's bizarre but fully true mural assignment. User under the nickname Hazel Jim. I teach physical education in a sprawling Ohio high school. A junior named Andrew stumbled into class about 15 minutes late, gasping for breath. He explained he missed the bus because he decided to help his elderly neighbor up the street who had fallen on her icy porch. He carried her inside, called her relative, waited until someone arrived. The class gave him a round of applause, but I still asked for confirmation. He offered to give me the neighbor's phone number. She praised Andrew for saving her from a dangerous situation. She had a bad hip, so if Andrew had not been there, she might have remained helpless in the cold. She asked me not to penalize him, said we should be proud we raised such a caring student. That conversation melted my heart. Andrew's tardy was not just real, it was heroic. I told the principal. The following week, Andrew received a small recognition award from the school for civic kindness. That day, the class learned that some tardy stories, like helping an elderly neighbor, are more heroic than any teacher might guess. User under the nickname Sunset Chem. I am a chemistry teacher in a suburban high school near Milwaukee. Usually, kids who arrive late mumble about missing the bus. But one day, a senior named Clara breezed in nearly half an hour into class. She looked mortified, explaining her father's van got sideswiped by an unknown driver in the school parking lot. So she stayed to help him file a police report. The rest of the class rolled their eyes, suspecting an excuse. She insisted. I said I'd talk to the resource officer. The resource officer confirmed that a hit-and-run occurred in the parking lot, with the father's van suffering a nasty dent. Clara stuck around to photograph the damage and speak with the officer. They told me she was upset, but it was indeed real. The father verified it too. So that day, I ended up letting her tardiness pass, feeling a bit bad for doubting her. The rest of the students realized a freak accident can happen even at the school's doorstep. Clara's father eventually found partial insurance coverage, but no culprit was identified. It remains one of those honest misfortunes that made her late. User under the nickname RavenEcon. I instruct economics in a mid-sized Virginia high school. One morning, a well-mannered sophomore named Natalie showed up tardy by 20 minutes. She politely explained that her carpool buddy's tire blew on the highway, leaving them stranded until a tow truck arrived. The class smirked, but she added that it happened on a remote stretch with patchy cell phone signal, so they could not call for help immediately. Eventually, a passing motorist lent them a phone with better coverage. Skeptical, I said I'd check. The mother of the carpool buddy called me soon after, recapping the entire fiasco. She apologized that the girls had to wave down a stranger, then wait for a tow. That verified the story. I realized a single tire blowout can sabotage a perfect arrival schedule, especially in rural highways. Natalie was just unlucky enough to witness it. From that day, if a student mentions a roadside breakdown, I recall how Natalie truly braved a blowout scenario, waiting on the roadside for a random Good Samaritan. User under the nickname Bright History. I am a history teacher at a Florida coastal school. Typically, tardiness stems from traffic or oversleeping. Then came Derek, a freshman, arriving half an hour late looking rattled. He told me he had spent the morning pulling his puppy from underneath their porch. The pup had crawled into a tight space after a neighborhood cat, got stuck, and whimpered endlessly. Derek's mother was at work, so he took it upon himself to unscrew a portion of the porch slats, carefully coaxing the panicked puppy out. The entire ordeal consumed precious minutes. I gave him a blank stare, half believing, half doubting. His mother emailed the front office, describing the exact scenario, praising Derek for saving the dog from potential injury. She attached a photo of the porch planks removed, the muddy puppy in Derek's arms. My heart softened. The class teased him about being a dog rescue hero. He grinned sheepishly. That day, I learned that a student might be tardy not from laziness but from an urgent pet mishap. I forgave him wholeheartedly, grateful that his puppy was safe. User under the nickname Emberlit. I teach creative writing at a New England boarding school. A typically punctual boy named Henry walked in 20 minutes late, borderline tears in his eyes. He said lightning struck a tree in his backyard the night before, causing part of it to collapse onto their driveway. That morning, he and his parents had to chop and clear the fallen branches just to get the car out. At first, it seemed like a dramatic explanation, but he described the flash, the roar of thunder, the massive branch blocking their route. I asked for confirmation from the front office. The father later called verifying. He said the cleanup took them hours, explaining Henry insisted on staying to help. A neighbor also chimed in with a message, praising Henry for his effort with the chainsaw. So it was all true. Next time someone claims a random tree collapsed from a storm, I recall Henry's late arrival, how a freak lightning strike can truly blockade a driveway, making an otherwise punctual teen show up rattled but honest. User under the nickname MapleChem. I handle chemistry in a big Chicago suburban high school. One Monday, a usually tardy girl named Caitlin arrived, claiming an unbelievable reason. She had to chase away a raccoon that climbed into her family's open car trunk. She insisted her father left the trunk open while hauling groceries, stepped inside for a moment, and the raccoon leapt in, rummaging for food. They spent half an hour coaxing it out. I doubted it, yet her expression was dead serious. She showed me a short phone clip of the raccoon rummaging, her father waving a broom, cursing. I nearly laughed at the absurdity, but indeed it looked real. She posted the clip to social media, which the class later found. So the bizarre story of a trunk-invading raccoon turned out absolutely valid. I let her tardiness pass. That taught me city wildlife can be cunning, and tardy excuses can be as wild as rummaging raccoons. User under the nickname Honeyband. I direct a middle school band in suburban Colorado. We get minor tardies from kids all the time. One day, a 7th grader named Corey strolled in 15 minutes late. He claimed the hallways were blocked because a water pipe burst near the cafeteria, flooding everything, so he had to go a long way around. That sounded plausible, but the rest of the building seemed normal. I demanded more detail. He insisted the custodians blocked certain corridors to mop up a torrent of water. Skeptical, I marched out to verify. Indeed, I saw caution signs and damp floor, custodians bustling with mops. They had turned that hallway into a no-go zone. Corey's story was legit. He had to take a winding route from the far side of the school. I apologized to him, letting him keep the tardy slip in case administrators needed it. That day, I realized even an internal school mishap like a burst pipe can turn a punctual kid into a perplexed latecomer. The best part is that the entire class teased him about being delayed by a mini Niagara Falls in the hallway. User under the nickname Starry Science. I teach physics in a large Midwest high school. A senior, Kayla, breezed in half an hour late one morning, out of breath. She told us her cat gave birth under her bed at dawn, and Kayla was the only one home. She spent that time assisting the mother cat, cleaning the newborn kittens, ensuring everything was okay. The class giggled, saying that sounded like a stale excuse. Then Kayla showed me pictures. A brand new litter of tiny kittens, eyes still closed, fur damp. She apologized for missing class. I demanded a parent note. Later, her mother emailed me a heartfelt explanation, praising Kayla for her calm help. She said the mother cat was scared, needed a gentle hand. Kayla had no choice but to care for them until the mother cat settled. I realized it was indeed true. The best part was Kayla ended up naming one kitten after a physics concept. She told me the story was stressful but precious. That taught me that improbable feline emergencies can indeed overshadow a normal morning routine, turning a student into an accidental midwife. User under the nickname Moondance. I teach dance electives in a Florida high school. One stormy morning, a sophomore named Serena arrived drenched and 20 minutes late, claiming that an alligator blocked her front step. She swore the reptile had crawled from a flooded retention pond, parking itself by her porch. She had to wait for local wildlife control to nudge it away. The class roared with laughter, suspecting a tall tale. Florida or not, it sounded dramatic. I pressed for parent confirmation. Sure enough, her father called midday, verifying the entire fiasco. He even sent a photo of the young gator sprawled on their walkway, its jaws open. The father explained they live near a wetland area, so the occasional gator cameo is not unheard of. Serena had every right to be terrified. Once the wildlife officer coaxed the gator to a safer location, she rushed to school. I forgave her tardiness, marveling at how casual Florida wildlife can be. The class went from mocking to wide-eyed admiration. I still remember the father's photo, the gator lying there like it owned the porch. That day, I learned to never doubt a student claiming an alligator caused them to be late in certain regions. User under the nickname Ember Compute. I handle computer science in a Midwestern high school. One senior, Dylan, typically arrived on time. Then one snowy day, he stumbled in nearly an hour late, breathless. He said his older sister locked the car keys inside the trunk, which was jammed shut from the cold. They spent ages calling roadside assistance, but the line was busy, so they improvised with a coat hanger to pop the trunk latch from the inside. The entire fiasco delayed them. The class teased him, but Dylan insisted. The next day, his sister emailed me an apology for messing with Dylan's schedule, describing the trunk fiasco in detail. She attached a picture of the wire contraption they used. She laughed that the trunk was half frozen, so it took forever. The entire meltdown was real. That taught me that simple mechanical slip-ups can push a reliable kid into tardiness. The proof is in the photographic evidence of a messed-up trunk in freezing weather. User under the nickname Redwood, Texas. I oversee a Spanish class in a big Texas city. A boy named Carlos arrived almost an hour after the bell. He said his father's truck was blocked by a runaway cow in the apartment complex parking lot. I could not help but laugh, but Carlos explained that a neighbor apparently kept livestock on some farmland, and one cow ended up trotting around the complex, refusing to move from the driveway. They spent half an hour coaxing the beast away, terrified it might charge if they tried to pass. The class found it hilarious. I demanded a parent note. The father emailed the front office, confirming the bizarre cow story, apologizing. He said the entire apartment staff came out to help guide the cow back to a trailer. It was comedic but real. That day, I realized that in a place with farmland intersections, unexpected livestock might indeed block your path. The absurd turned out absolutely factual. Ever since, if a student says a random farm animal blocked their route, I recall Carlos's runaway cow fiasco, letting me remain open-minded. User under the nickname Ashenbio. I run a biology class in an Oregon high school by the forests. One morning, a junior named Tiffany showed up half an hour late, claiming she had to help deliver goat babies at her cousin's farm. The class erupted in giggles. But Tiffany is known for living on farmland. She insisted the goats went into labor unexpectedly at dawn, and she was the only one around to assist. She described the messy, tense procedure, how she nearly fainted but persevered. Everyone teased her mercilessly, but I withheld judgment. That afternoon, her cousin wrote to me that Tiffany saved the baby goats by clearing fluid from their nostrils, ensuring they breathed. Without her quick action, they might have died. The cousin apologized for making Tiffany late but called her a hero. Surreal as it sounds, goat birthing indeed overshadowed a normal school morning. We ended up weaving goat biology into a future lesson, highlighting real farm experiences. That day I learned that even a comedic-sounding excuse, helping goats give birth, can be a raw, vital truth. User under the nickname Willow English. I teach high school English near a rural area in Arkansas. One breezy spring morning, a junior named Beck strolled in 20 minutes late, breathing heavily. When I pressed for a reason, he claimed his bicycle chain snapped during his ride to school, so he ended up pushing the bike along an old dirt trail to shortcut through a field. He said it took ages to trudge over uneven ground, dodging brambles. At first, I suspected a tall tale. In this region, students rarely bike to school at all. But Beck insisted he loved cycling, and that morning, everything went wrong. Out of curiosity, I asked if he could provide any proof. After class, he showed me photos on his phone. A damaged chain, the bike leaning against a random fence, an out-of-breath selfie. That convinced me. A follow-up call with his father sealed the deal. Beck's dad verified his son attempted a shortcut when the chain broke, and yes, it cost him precious time. I let him off with a gentle reminder to get the chain fixed. Now, whenever a student claims some mechanical meltdown on their way to school, I recall how Beck's snapped bicycle chain turned out surprisingly legit, even if it sounded improbable at first. User under the nickname Hazel Lit. I handle literature classes at a Houston area high school. A student named Felicity wandered in nearly half an hour late, wincing. She explained that she was stung by a swarm of wasps after accidentally disturbing their nest near her family's garage. She spent her early morning applying Sting's ointment, partly swelling up, and waiting for her mother to monitor any allergic reaction. The rest of the class arched eyebrows, but Felicity still looked flushed, with faint welts on her arms. I quietly asked her to step aside, noticing some red swelling. She apologized, saying she was woozy, but determined to attend class. I sent her to the school nurse for a check. The nurse confirmed multiple wasp stings. The mother's voicemail also matched Felicity's story. They had to watch her closely in case of a bad reaction, but she insisted on making it to school. That morning, we excused her tardiness fully. Later, the class joked about wasps being a new kind of alarm clock from nature. Felicity found humor in it, once she recovered from the pain. Now, I never doubt that a random insect fiasco can derail a student's timetable in the strangest ways. User under the nickname BrightGeo. I am a geometry teacher in a mid-sized Kansas high school. One day, a sophomore named Owen rushed in 15 minutes late, panting. He claimed a neighbor's donkey escaped and ran onto his property, blocking the gate. The donkey refused to move, braying loudly whenever Owen tried to pass. He spent the morning coaxing the stubborn creature with a handful of carrots until the owner could arrive. The class snickered. Donkey stories always sound comedic. But I gave him a chance. Later, his mother texted me an apology, verifying the donkey incident. She said they lived near a small hobby farm. Animals occasionally wandered off, and that morning the donkey chose their yard. Owen had no choice but to wait. A single donkey meltdown made him late. That taught me never to dismiss farmland mishaps. From that day on, if a student references livestock trouble, I think of Owen's donkey blockade. Sometimes the countryside offers whimsical, yet true, tardy excuses. User under the nickname Ember Reed. I teach remedial reading in a coastal Maine high school. One chilly morning, a timid freshman named Marina tiptoed in 20 minutes after the bell. She said she had to rescue a stranded sea turtle hatchling on the rocky shoreline near her house. Everyone laughed, because sea turtle hatchlings in Maine seemed unlikely. She insisted it washed north via some current, or was part of a research tagging program. She quickly called the local marine hotline for guidance, then carefully carried the small turtle to a volunteer's van. The class teased her, calling the story too outlandish. But a local news segment that afternoon highlighted how a young girl found a disoriented turtle on the beach, handed it to rescuers. We recognized Marina's name in the story. We realized she was telling the absolute truth. A wayward turtle needed help, making her late. I ended up praising her publicly, clarifying that nature can produce bizarre circumstances, even for a Maine teen. Now, if a student claims to have rescued some improbable marine creature, I recall Marina's scene on the rocky coast. User under the nickname DustEcon. I handle economics in a Connecticut high school. A quiet junior named Travis arrived almost half an hour late one Monday, looking anxious. He said he was forced to drive his grandmother to the hospital after she slipped on their front steps and twisted her ankle. His parents were out, so it fell to him. The class cynically smirked, but Travis was not the type to spin tales. I asked for a parent note or something official. He gave me the hospital's discharge slip the next day, listing the grandmother's minor ankle sprain. She needed Travis to drive because no ambulance was deemed necessary, but she could not handle the wheel with her foot hurting. That confirmed everything. The poor kid had a harrowing morning, balancing family duty with academic demands. The class ended up respecting him for stepping up. That day, I realized family emergencies can strike randomly. A little empathy goes a long way when verifying tardy explanations that, yes, can be fully real. User under the nickname Riverlit. I manage an AP literature class in a bustling Ohio suburb. One day, a senior named Emma arrived 15 minutes late, explaining she got stuck at a train crossing where the locomotive stopped, blocking the crossing entirely. She had to wait for it to move or detach the cars. The entire class found it predictable but doubted a train would just stall. She insisted it happened often in certain parts of town. Emma's father called, mentioning he also got stuck at the same crossing, verifying that the train paused due to a mechanical check. They sat for over 10 minutes with no detour route. The father apologized for the inconvenience. Indeed, trains can cause meltdown traffic situations in some suburbs. The next day, I told the class Emma's reason was valid. They joked about train schedules, but Emma just sighed, complaining that in her area, the tracks are notorious for random halts. Another moment of improbable-sounding tardiness proved honest. Now, each time a student cites a train blockade, I recall Emma's father's phone call, trusting that trains can indeed sabotage morning commutes. User under the nickname LunarMath. I teach algebra in a Wisconsin high school. One winter morning, a reliable senior named Alexis arrived nearly half an hour late, cheeks red with cold. She explained that her mother's car door was frozen shut, and while trying to yank it open, the handle broke clean off. They had to heat it with a space heater, then rig a temporary fix so she could even enter the car. It sounded like typical winter trouble, but the detail about a broken handle made the class laugh. I still suspected exaggeration. Alexis's mother emailed me photos of the broken handle. She apologized for letting Alexis leave home so late, but it was an unavoidable fiasco. Sure enough, the winter freeze had messed with the mechanism. I let Alexis's tardiness slide, reminded once again that severe cold can spawn ridiculous morning hurdles. Now, whenever a student claims the car door physically fell off, I believe them. Winter spares no one. User under the nickname Dustlit. I handle an advanced literature class in a suburban high school near Phoenix. A sophomore named Jonah arrived 15 minutes late, sweaty and panting. He claimed his house had a burst water line in the front yard, causing a mini fountain. He spent the early morning turning off the main valve, bailing out water to prevent flooding. The class teased him for a dramatic spin on plumbing. I demanded a parent note. That afternoon, his father called me, confirming the entire plumbing disaster. They had to scramble to find the shutoff, since the original location was mislabeled. Water gushed until Jonah hammered the valve closed. The father thanked me for understanding. So once again, a chaotic domestic meltdown turned out real, even if it sounded comedic. Jonah came in the next day with a grin. The class congratulated him for saving the yard. It taught me that a random waterline fiasco can indeed upend a student's normal routine. User under the nickname Emberguide. I'm a teacher in a Colorado mountain town. A sophomore named Macy rushed in late one morning, explaining that her father's pickup got stuck on icy gravel halfway down their steep driveway. They had to shovel around the tires, sprinkle sand, and slowly maneuver it free. The entire rescue took nearly half an hour. The class half believed her because we do live near precarious slopes. But still, some teased it might be an excuse to skip. Macy's mother called during lunch, verifying the fiasco. She added that neighbors sometimes face even worse conditions, so in a sense, Macy was lucky to arrive at all. The mother apologized for the tardiness. The next day, I told the class it was legit. Winter driving on mountainous terrain can sabotage even the most punctual family. They nodded, some living with the same fear. That day, I realized mountain living fosters unique, perfectly valid excuses that can sound improbable to outsiders. User under the nickname River Econ. I teach economics in a large Florida high school. One senior named Chelsea strolled in 20 minutes late, claiming she spent the morning helping a stranded dolphin calf on the beach near her house. She said she and her neighbors spotted the distressed calf in shallow water, so they contacted a local marine rescue group. Chelsea stayed until the rescue boat arrived, ensuring the calf wouldn't beach again. The class found it too sweet, suspecting a tall tale for an easy pass. But Chelsea had phone pictures. A small dolphin, half limp in the surf, neighbors standing around it. She also had a note from the rescue group's volunteer. They confirmed the rescue, praising her for calm action. Realizing it was 100% legit, I excused her lateness. She gained instant hero status among her peers. That day, I learned that in coastal Florida, A teenager might indeed be late for class because they saved a dolphin at dawn. User under the nickname Maple Science. I teach chemistry in a sprawling New Jersey high school. One morning, a junior named Brandon arrived a full half-hour late. He quietly told me his dog somehow managed to lock itself in the bathroom at home while chasing a squeaky ball, slamming the door behind it. The dog then panicked, scratching the door, howling. Brandon was the only one there, so he spent precious time locating the house key for that bathroom door, which had gone missing. He tried unscrewing the door handle. Eventually, he pried the door open with a screwdriver. I raised an eyebrow, suspecting a fabricated story, but Brandon insisted, showing me minor scratches on his forearms from the dog's frantic leaps. At lunch, his father called, laughing at how bizarre the morning had been. He confirmed the dog fiasco, describing the bathroom scene. They never imagined a pet could trap itself. Brandon's tardy turned out to be absolutely legit. Now I joke with students that sometimes even a locked bathroom door can sabotage your day. If anyone claims a dog forced them into an extended morning rescue, I recall Brandon's comedic but real predicament. User under the nickname Ember Civics. I handle a civics class in a mid-sized Ohio high school. One winter day, a sophomore named Kaylee trudged in, nearly 40 minutes late, hair damp from melted snow. She said she witnessed a minor car crash en route, where one car slid on black ice, hitting a parked vehicle. Kaylee told me she stayed behind to help the driver, who was shaken and alone, calling emergency services. She wrote down details for the police and waited until someone took over. The rest of the class teased her for playing Good Samaritan. I demanded a note from law enforcement or a parent. A local officer emailed me a small statement praising Kaylee for staying calm, assisting the driver who panicked. The officer said Kaylee was a key witness, providing a statement that validated her tardy in full. I announced this to the class, and they applauded her kindness. It taught me that a student might be late not because they're lazy, but because they're helping at an accident scene, demonstrating real civic responsibility. I ended up using Kaylee's story as an example in class about community service and moral duty. User under the nickname Redwood Lit. I teach 10th grade literature in a Chicago suburb. A usually punctual student named Damon strolled in 20 minutes behind schedule, eyes wide with lingering shock. He explained that his sister's new parrot had escaped its cage, soared around their living room, knocking over items, and ended up perched atop a high shelf. Damon spent the morning with a broom handle and treats, coaxing the bird down. He insisted it took forever because the parrot squawked and fluttered away each time he got near. The class roared with laughter. He offered to show me a short video from his phone. Indeed, the bird perched precariously, refusing to budge. His mother emailed a quick apology, verifying the morning's commotion. She attached a snapshot of the parrot on a curtain rod, Damon below, brandishing a broom. They eventually recaptured it, but Damon was late by default. That day, I realized that an exotic pet meltdown can overshadow a routine commute. Now, if a teen says a parrot fiasco delayed them, I recall Damon's comedic proof that sometimes you must chase a stubborn bird around before heading to school. User under the nickname Dusty Algebra. I instruct algebra in a rural Kentucky high school. One bright morning, a junior named Hazel walked in roughly 20 minutes late, looking downright spooked. She explained that, as she drove down a country road, she nearly hit a wild turkey that decided to strut across the pavement. She swerved into a shallow ditch to avoid it. Then the car got stuck in the mud, needing a neighbor's tractor to pull her free. The class found it comedic, but I was not so sure. Hazel insisted turkeys roam widely there, and a collision would be messy. Her father sent a message confirming that a local neighbor indeed towed Hazel's car out of a muddy ditch after she avoided a turkey. He apologized, praising Hazel for not harming the bird or damaging the car. In a region with abundant wild turkeys, this scenario was plausible. That day, I let her tardy slide. It reminded me that random wildlife can appear at the worst times, forcing students into bizarre delays. People teased her about turkey trouble, but we all realized how a small road encounter can lead to a genuine meltdown. User under the nickname Ember Arts. I run an art class in a big California high school. One Monday, a junior named Alicia turned up nearly half an hour after the bell. She looked drained, smudges of paint on her hands. She told me she was part of a volunteer mural project for a community event and had discovered overnight graffiti vandalizing the almost finished piece. She felt obligated to fix it at dawn, painting over the vandalism to restore the mural before the official unveiling. That morning, no one else showed up, so she spent an hour covering the damage. The class found the story dramatic, but Alicia always was an art devotee. The principal mentioned hearing from the community center about a vandalized mural that a student quickly repaired. He praised Alicia's dedication. That validated her tardy completely. Now, whenever a teen claims art-based emergencies, I remember Alicia's vigil to save a communal mural. Real life can produce last-minute creative crises that overshadow class start times. User under the nickname Dawn Cafeteria. I fill in as a floating sub in a sprawling Oregon high school. A student named Lily rushed in one day 15 minutes late, claiming the entire cafeteria bus that delivers certain special lunches to her mother's small store had broken down on their street, blocking her driveway. She had to wait while they jump-started or towed the bus out of the way. Everyone teased her that it sounded contrived. But Lily said the driver apologized, referencing engine trouble. Out of curiosity, I asked the mother at pickup time, and she confirmed it wholeheartedly. She said the special lunch bus for a local meal program had died right outside their driveway, creating a mini blockade. Lily was stuck until they cleared it. That day, I realized sometimes even a random catering bus meltdown can hamper a student's commute. Another odd scenario proven absolutely valid. User under the nickname Maple Symphony. I direct a music appreciation class in a Massachusetts high school. One crisp autumn day, a senior named Jacob arrived about 20 minutes late. He claimed he spent the morning chasing an escaped cat from a neighbor because the cat was climbing dangerously on telephone wires near his house. He insisted he felt duty-bound to keep it from falling or knocking out power if it tugged on certain cables. The class joked about a cat turning into a wire walker, but Jacob looked too shaken to be lying. The neighbor emailed me, praising Jacob for saving her cat from a precarious perch. She said he used a ladder, coaxed the feline with treats, and made sure the cat did not cause a power outage. That took him beyond his normal departure time. I waved off the tardy. It was eye-opening how a cat rescue at dawn can overshadow typical teenage routine. Now, if I see a student referencing some outlandish cat fiasco, I recall Jacob's wire-walking cat adventure, trusting that weird pet fiascos happen. User under the nickname Redwood Bio. I handle biology labs in a southwestern Nebraska high school. One breezy day, a sophomore named Christian burst in half an hour after the bell, panting. He said a beehive in his backyard fence partially collapsed that morning, sending angry bees swarming. He had to wait in his house with the windows shut until a local beekeeper arrived to handle it. The class found it bizarre, but Christian insisted that the sudden hive collapse turned the yard into a war zone. I requested a note from home. The father later called, verifying the fiasco. He said the local beekeeper was thrilled to relocate the hive, but it took time to calm the swarm. Christian missed his bus in the process. That day, I let him off with an excuse tardy, realizing that sometimes a swarm of bees can hold a student hostage at home. The entire class ended up discussing pollinators, ironically turning a tardy excuse into a biology lesson. User under the nickname Stormy Civics. I teach civics in a big Texas high school near farmland. One morning, a soft-spoken junior named Paige arrived almost 40 minutes into class. She claimed a flash flood overnight had turned the low bridge near her house into a raging creek. She was forced to detour 15 miles around, stuck behind slow tractors. The class smirked, but I noted the tension in her voice. I said I'd check with the front office. Local weather reports indicated a sudden storm, flooding that small bridge. Another student from that area was also late, citing the same route meltdown. Paige's father emailed me that evening, detailing the labyrinth of roads they took. I excused her tardiness. The next day, Paige was relieved. The class realized that in certain terrains, a bit of flash flooding can cause major havoc. Now, if a kid claims an extreme weather detour, I recall Paige's route fiasco, staying open-minded.